so.
Yeah.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the City of New Franklin public hearing at 6 p.m. on March 1st. Kelly, would you do a roll call for us, please?
Okay, make sure you specify that. Okay. Mr. Cox?
Here.
Mr. Hargett? Mrs. Jones?
Present.
Mr. Betterman?
Here.
Mr. Powell?
Here.
Mr. Daniels?
Here.
Mr. Stock?
Here.
Pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code, Section 929.02, a renewal application for properties within the city limits are in an agricultural district and have requested a renewal application to be approved by the City of New Franklin Council. The first one on the agenda is Juanita D. Gemking at 1250 Center Road, and I'd like to make a motion to approve this parcel.
Second.
We have a first and a second, Kelly?
Jack Reed, second.
Yeah.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Hargett?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Betterman?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Stock?
Yes.
Motion passes. The second is Dennis Hartong Farm. I'd like to make a motion to approve the agricultural exemption.
Second.
We have a first and a second, Kevin?
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Hargett?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Betterman?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Stock?
Yes.
Motion passes. Next is John and Nancy Schilling. I'd like to make a motion to approve the property on Neversilla Road.
Second.
We have a first and a second, Kevin?
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Hargett?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Betterman?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Stock?
Yes.
Motion passes. I'd like to make a motion to approve for Robert and Gail Schilling. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a first and a second.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Hargett?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Betterman?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Stock?
Yes.
Motion passes. I'd like to make a motion to approve Schilling Farm LLC. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a first and a second.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Hargett?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Betterman?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Stock?
Yes.
Motion passes. I'd like to make a motion to approve for Barbara Daly, Rollwood Farms. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a first and a second, Kelly?
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Hargett?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Fetterman?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Stock?
Yes.
Motion passes. I'd like to make a motion to approve for Connie Shantz.
Second.
I have a first and a second, Kelly?
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Hargett?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Fetterman?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Stock?
Yes.
Motion passes. I'd like to make a motion to approve for Joseph and Susan. I don't want to mess up this name. Cossack?
Second.
Close. We have a first and a second, Kelly?
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Hargett?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Fetterman?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Stock?
Yes.
Motion passes. I'd like to make a motion to approve for Mary Ann Steyerwalt, trustee.
Second.
We have a first and a second, Kelly?
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Hargett?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Fetterman?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Stock?
Yes.
Motion passes. I'd like to make a motion to approve for Robert Schreiber.
Second.
We have a first and a second.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Hargett?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Fetterman?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Stock?
Yes.
Do we have any public questions?
May I ask?
Yes.
Did we do two separate ones or hard copy?
I did combine them with all of the parcel numbers.
Oh, you combined.
Dennis Hartong / Farm,
Okay,
there are a total of 5 parcels.
okay.
They do the notice.
I just have 2 separate applications.
Correct.
Okay.
And I,
Not everybody.
yeah, I mean, I did it as
That's fine.
I did.
Okay.
Would you feel more comfortable if I go back and do a second one?
No, I just want to make sure we didn't miss anything.
Gotcha. I think we did all of them.
I do believe even on the application, wasn't it combined?
Well, I
I'm
just
not
have.
sure that parcel number's on there.
Hmm?
I'm not sure that parcel number is on the one you already approved.
Which one, Paul? The one for Dennis Hartong and
Yeah.
Hartong Farm?
They do know the farm.
Yeah, there's
Your 5
three,
parcel numbers?
I didn't even know
there's 4 parcel numbers, right?
I think there may have been 2 sheets on that one. I
Okay.
think you have 2 sheets. And I think that's what Jim was saying, he had 2 sheets on it, but
Well,
now he combined the 2. and
There's
they're all
2
in
separate
five.
applications, one under the name Dennison and a second one under
Hartong
Hartong Farms.
Yeah, D&D Hartong Farms.
Right.
Did you know, Knollwood Farm?
Yes.
Yes.
You did that one?
So I just want to make sure that we're not skipping one of these. But you said that they were combined as one motion.
Kelly, do you have that parcel number
I do,
on the
on the template,
combined?
it gives all the parcel numbers.
I mean, on the one that was approved for Dennison and Hartong.
Yes, there are a total of 5 parcels.
Okay, all right. I'm just looking at the face sheet. That must be a second. The face sheet's only got 4 parcels.
And
There's
there's a
one
second.
Parcel for Dennis Hartong, 1 parcel for Hartong
There are 2
Farm.
sheets.
And that's
Yeah, I
because
have to, okay.
that's how it's listed on the Summit County Auditor, that's why it's like that.
I'm
I
just concerned like the rest of you guys. I don't want this one.
I think I misread you. When I said 2 sheets, you thought there were 2 sheets on this, but it was actually these sheets that there were 2 of them.
I just want to be sure we didn't miss a parcel.
It's possible that
Should read
these are different
Should
things.
read the parcel.
You want me to go back and read them?
No, but we really should because the parcels are the important aspect of.
If you want me to go back and read them, I
Would you
will.
please?
Sure. I
No,
don't
just
have
kidding,
copies.
just kidding.
Okay, then I'm gonna adjourn public meeting at 6:10. That was a breeze, wasn't it?
Nicely done.
And welcome to the City of New Franklin Council meeting at 6:10 on March 1st.
Committee meetings first.
Sorry. And tonight we have.
And do we have to have a public hearing and then start the public meetings?
Public meeting,
Do we have to adjourn that?
she did.
I did adjourn. Well,
Do we need a motion
You
to?
didn't say
Did you roll
yay or nay, right?
Yeah.
You-
Oh.
Okay, I apologize. I'll make a motion
Jenny was
to
just taking
adjourn
charge and said,
and saying
we're
that.
done.
We have a first and a second, Kelly. We will do a roll call.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Hargit?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Fetterman?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Stock?
I was expecting a no from Jim up there.
Not for this.
Not for this.
No, that'd be ridiculous.
Okay, now we'd
Now
like to call. Now we'd like to call to order the City of New Franklin Council meeting at 6:10.
Committee
Committee
first.
meeting, committee meeting, Wednesday, March 1st at 6:10. And we have, did you tell me 7?
I think we said
We have 7 first readings?
6.
4 on the regular agenda and 2 on the supplemental.
Okay, we have 6. We have 6 first readings, no seconds, no thirds, and no pending legislation. Our first reading is resolution number 23R12 for Mr. Daniels.
This was brought before Community Development. This is a resolution approving additional services invoiced by Dataforce for the printing, mailing, and tabulation of the community survey component of the 2022 comprehensive plan and declaring an emergency. And what this is about basically is that we had such an overwhelming response to the mailed surveys that the postage was a lot more than what was expected. So we have an additional, how much was it, $3,700? Is that what it was?
$2,383.50.
Okay. 2,000 what, say again?
$2,383.50.
long term. I'm still getting used to stuff. Any questions about this?
I will say that it doesn't have to be then and now through council. You're approving this because it's under 3,000, so I can approve it myself as a then and now.
Okay.
So that
That makes sense. Okay, if there's any issue with waiving the 3 on that?
I just had a comment that there was some talk about not even doing that, and it was surprising how many people.
Yeah. High
I agree, David. I thought that was good.
Continuing on with community development, 23R14, a resolution recognizing March 6th as Inclusion Day in the month of March as Developmental Disability Awareness Month and declaring this emergency. This is Mr. Adamson's.
Well, and I should have, I apologize, and you may want to amend it to make this as council as a whole, if you choose to. But I was contacted by Summit County Developmental Disabilities Board. This is their month. March 6th is their day, and they've asked the various municipalities and villages and townships to pass a resolution in support of it. I know everybody up here and everybody out here is aware of the wonderful work that they do. We have many people here in the community that are served by the Developmental Disabilities Board. So in response to their request, I put this resolution together. If council would prefer, I'd be more than happy to have that amended to council as a whole if you so choose.
Yeah, Kelly, if we do that, do we need to do anything in committee to change that to council as a whole?
This is for 14.
Yeah, 14, just to change it from Mayor Adamson being the sponsor to council as a whole.
No, committee of the whole.
Yeah. Yeah, as amended, so.
So council as a whole?
Yeah.
And the mayor.
Yeah, and the mayor.
That's fine. I'm fine with that.
All right, we're good with waiving 3, good with that amendment. Any other questions, comments? Continuing with community development, I don't ever remember having this many resolutions before I had.
I think it's a first.
Yeah. 23R15, a resolution authorizing New Franklin to enter into an agreement with Abrams Family Contracting for constructing the pavilion at New Franklin System Park and Bell's Custom Concrete for the pavilion and declaring emergency. And as I understand, we are going to be withdrawing this.
Yeah, I sponsored this, and I do intend to withdraw it. And I just want to provide this much background. And some of this we've been able to share already. But the Parks Commission, we've talked for a number of years about the pavilion at Sisler. And sometimes it's the Taj Mahal, and sometimes it's been more simple. The Parks Commission has been very active in supporting, in trying to support their purpose and what they're charged with under the charter to make recommendations relative to what's best for the parks. During those discussions, early on in the year, we looked and saw what type of what funds might be available for projects, and approximately, roughly $85,000. And we still have a $100,000 carryover and still satisfied to pay back for the tennis courts, etc. We have been talking about trying to do more at Grill Park. And so at the meeting, I said, well, maybe we do something at Grill Park. And the Parks Board said, well, what about that Sisler Pavilion? Can't we maybe just do something modest there? And something very similar to what we have at Lockhart. And hopefully it wouldn't be all that expensive if we could do it within the parameters of this. And so, with that in mind, there was the Parks Board determined to go out and try to get some pricing so we get a rough idea of what they were. We had been talking with some national vendors in the past. They recontacted those people. It was I'll say a more casual approach to try to get numbers, all done in good faith. And there was a proposal that was submitted by one individual. We did not put site plans together. We went to the site, me and the parks people, and determined what would be a good location. We actually did that last fall. And what would be the right size. And the determination was 24 by 40. And so it was, okay, we're going to do a 24 by 40, very simple, no sides, no concession stand right now. We'll build it so that maybe you could add that on. And the rafters, and this is what we're after. one of the contractors submitted something that was site-specific, how he would do it. For expediency, what happened next was that became the details that were in that proposal. Whited out the names and the prices and everything, and then provided that to others. Okay, this is what we're after. Give us a price. And we only got one price in from one other local contractor. There were some other contractors who were contacted. I will say that we did not give them a deadline for a response. And as a result, we ended up with the two proposals. This was the less expensive of the two proposals. I presented it because we were hoping to get this done before the season started. And the numbers are good, we got the money to pay for it. The questions were raised about, was it fair to the first guy that we used his numbers on the second guy? And that's a good question. All right. And so, I think in fairness, I'm going to withdraw this resolution. We will have, I've talked with Kevin Noble, and it's going to be the same specs. We'll put those basic specs together, and we'll put together a request for proposal, and we'll send it out, and we'll make sure that local people, have some window of response time so that everybody's got an opportunity to make a fair bid on this thing. I haven't decided yet that the one contractor included concrete with his proposal. The other one did not. We got a separate price on concrete. Probably we'll put a separate proposal for the concrete and do that as a separate element. And it shouldn't slow this process down too much. I don't know that we'll have something to you by the second meeting in March. I would expect that we'll get those in, we'll get those out, and then we'll get those in, and then there'll be a recommendation to you, which will probably be at the first meeting in April. So this thing won't be sitting there in April, but I've talked with the folks that that are involved in the construction, and I've talked to the baseball people too, and the feeling is that if it goes up in May, it's not going to be that intrusive in terms of the activities up there. So we'll take another shot at this, and still with the goal of making sure by summertime we've got a pavilion up there. So that's what we got.
I'd like to thank you for this process. It was a bit of an education as to how it's supposed to go. And I think in consideration for the deep amount of discussion that happened through this, and the fact that it was in a public document that we were going to build a pavilion, even though that's being withheld or withdrawn, I think the concept of trying to get wave the three when we do get to that point so that it can happen, since I think we all have a grip on it. So I'm just throwing that out there for conversation's sake now, because I appreciate making sure everybody's good with it.
I'd like to say thanks for entertaining the conversation as well. I think this will be a good outcome. Like I say, I know myself, I support having something out there, but I just think doing it a little differently is going to maybe work out better.
And you're right about that. And I'm much more comfortable with that process. Because as it happens, both of the folks who submitted a bid are local. And they've done work for us before, and the one initial one, they spent a lot of time with baseball, and so.
And I don't think anyone thinks, we had a lot of discussion about this, I don't think anyone thinks there was anything nefarious or sleight of hand or anything like that. I think it probably just had to do with a couple of different people being involved, and it just kind of came together. Well, we know we want a pavilion and this works, and so I get it, but I think this is doing it right. Anybody else? All right, my last one is Resolution 23R17, a resolution strongly urging the Ohio governor and members of the Ohio General Assembly to restore the local government fund to pre-recession level and declaring this an emergency.
I can speak to that if you like.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. There's been a concern among municipalities, that would include cities, villages, as to funding cuts from Columbus. And that's been a problem, and it continues to be a problem, and it's something we all have to be very sensitive to. The Ohio Municipal League is one organization that tries to keep abreast of these potential cuts. We have a Mayor's Association that does the same thing. And this one came across from the Ohio Municipal League, and it relates to the local government fund. Now, we've been aware for a long time that there were cuts in that. It was back in the recession, 2011, I guess, is when the local government fund historically was 3.6% of the state general revenue fund. So 3.68% of the state general revenue fund was set aside for local governments, and then it's allocated to local governments based upon population. In 2011, it was reduced to 1.66% because of the recession. Well, a lot of time has passed since then. You follow the news, the state probably is healthy financially, maybe as they've ever been. The governor just transferred a sizable amount of money into the rainy day fund. And to his credit, in his budget, he has suggested an increase in the local government fund, but it's still below 2%. There's one representative who has suggested something in the range of 2.5%. We're asking, with stars in our eyes, to restore it to what it was before it was cut. And we're not alone in that. A rough estimate of what it has cost us, I estimated in here about $400,000 a year, total revenue loss of about $4 million. In 2008, we received $653,000 from that fund.
How much, Paul, would you say it again? I apologize.
$653,000.
Thank you.
In 2022, we received $493,000. I did the present value of, and the 653 was a high number. By 2011, it was down to 532,000. But you do the formula for present value on this, and that 600,000 increases to 900. It's the equivalent of 900,000 right now. The 532 is in the range of 750,000. Over the course of those years, we've easily lost, I'd say, in the range of $4 million. That we, and we're not alone in that. So there was a time it made sense. We don't think it makes sense anymore. The Municipal League feels that the more teeth that we have to this, council's support for this, we're going to continue our lobbying in that regard, and the support of the resolution is helpful.
Any comments, questions?
No, I think it's good.
Okay. Do we want to waive the 3 on this?
If we could, yeah.
The sooner we get it down. Resolution, it's more of a, what do they call them? Just right, whatever. Just a statement, I guess. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
And real quick, also in the resolution, the mayor mentions that we've also the state has also eliminated the estate tax,
right?
And the estate tax, as I understand it, is what paid for this building. Using, saving that estate tax over the years.
Part of it, yes.
Part of it. And then also tangible personal property tax. So those things that would come into our budget have been taken away also. So it's
I mean, it's stuff to be aware of, and at some point in time we'll invite public support as well. It's just sort of a shift. In Columbus, the legislature is weighted more heavily to the rural areas, and that's where they see the needs. And the cities often become the chopping block. There's House Bill 1, and we're going to be talking about that one. I don't know if we'll do a resolution, but House Bill 1 is pending, and House Bill 1 would, it's a reduction. They're cutting some taxes in one way or another, and they intend to make up for it by reducing appraised values of real estate. So they're going to, as part of the process, it's a trickle down, and at some point they're going to take away the homestead exemption, and homeowners are going to say, oh no, but then we're going to drop the appraised value so that you still sort of pay, don't take too much of a hit. But for municipalities, we'll incur about a 10% decrease in what we receive from property taxes. And that's a substantial source of revenue.
So that's even funds that don't go to Columbus.
Right.
That's our
exactly. And so we're going to be, trying to say to Columbus, save some money somewhere else. Don't take it from us, because we need it. So Anyway, we'll keep everybody abreast of what's going on in that regard, but we're trying to stay active from a lobbying standpoint.
This is a committee, so you're more than welcome to.
I just had a quick question. Might it read a little bit better to have a specific year than say pre-recession?
Yeah, I was a little confused by that too.
Because I didn't know how.
recession?
Huh?
Which recession?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's pre-2011?
Well, in the text of the resolution itself, it has the detail about the percentages, and it says specifically the percentage. So what we read is, I don't know, what do you call that, a synopsis of the legislation? But the full resolution has the detail of the percentage.
Yeah, it does say it was reduced in 2011
Yeah.
by 50%.
Yeah, you're right. And the heading is just this now.
The heading,
Let's hope we get our blue sky. Is this restricted funds usage? Should we get more? I mean, I'm not understanding where this fund all goes in the
It
budget.
goes into the general fund.
General
Local
fund?
government goes into the general fund.
Okay, I just didn't think
Does
there's,
the governor have the final say on it, or is it voted?
No, the legislature has to
yeah.
approve the budget.
It has veto power.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he gets to just decide to cut it himself, the legislature
Legislature.
Correct.
voted to cut it, okay.
And this goes back to Governor Casey. Anything else?
For those days. It was a big hit.
Okay, we're going to close the very long community development meeting at 6:29.
Killing us, Jack.
Sorry.
The second resolution is resolution number 23R13. Mr. Cox.
Thank you. We will open the Finance Committee meeting at 6:27, and that'll be 23R13, a resolution authorizing additional appropriations to the 2023 annual operating appropriation budget and declaring an emergency. This is for the amount of $15,286.18 to the Benner Road Bridge Fund contractual due to additional pass-through payments. Questions? If you want to say anything, you look like you want to say something.
No, I'm just waiting in case anybody has a question, but obviously we've been down this road
We've
before.
been over this bridge.
Yeah. Good,
Yeah, this is no cost to the city, this is.
No,
passing
it's
through.
just pass through. It's no cost to the city. Actual money doesn't come in, actual money doesn't go out. It's just has to be on our books.
Wave 3? Yes. We will close. See how this works, Mr. Daniels? We will close the Finance Committee meeting at 6:28.
It's breaking your heart, though, Jim. On a piece of legislation, I know it is.
And the next resolution is resolution number 23R16. Mr. Fetterman.
We'll open Walton ordinance at 6:28. 23R16 is a resolution authorizing the city of New Franklin to enter into a one-year agreement with Summit County Public Defenders Commission in declaring an emergency. This is a yearly thing we do. We've never had a request for payment, and unless you have any objections, just waive the three. And we'll close at 6:29.
You tried to set on record.
You did set it again. I'd like to open the City of New Franklin regular council meeting at 6:30. Everyone would stand for the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kelly, you would do a roll call, please? Mr. Cox?
Present.
Mr. Hargit?
Here.
Mrs. Jones?
present.
Mr. Fetterman?
Here.
Mr. Powell?
Here.
Mr. Daniels?
Here.
Mr. Scott?
Here.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from February 15th meeting.
I have a comment about the minutes,
We are
if I
ready.
may. Under the mayor's report, database of the company that handled the paper surveys requested an additional, it says here $23,000, and we are just not paying that. It should be about $23,083, I think is the number.
So $2,083 even.
$2,383.
Okay.
So just, strike one of those zeros.
So now that's been struck.
And 50 cents.
and 50 cents.
But I don't think you mentioned 50 cents.
I don't think I did.
Watch your pennies,
I'm-
dollars to watch themselves. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes amended.
Second.
We have a first and a second.
Mr. Hargit,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Fetterman,
Yes.
Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Daniels,
Yes.
Mr. Stock,
Yes.
Mr. Cox.
Yes.
Judy, may I interrupt you? It's not on the agenda, and the minutes, the amended minutes for December 7th.
Yes, I have them here, Paul. Do you want me to make a motion for that?
Yeah, I think we'll need that.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to pass the amended minutes from the December 7th meeting.
Second?
Do you have a first and a second, Kelly?
Mr. Hargit,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Fetterman,
Yes.
Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Daniels,
Yes.
Mr. Stock,
Yes.
Mr. Cox.
Yes.
Motion carries. You had something to say.
Well, and I just, just so the public is aware, we had, council on December 7th approved the appointment of John Conley for the Planning and Zoning Commission, and it was under the heading of Parks, and it was, so that was to correct that. And that was for the balance of the 5-year term for David Crock, ending December 31st. So I wanted to clean that up. Appreciate it.
And tell me again, it was listed how to begin with?
Well, it was under the heading of the Parks Commission as opposed to being under the heading of Planning and Zoning.
Okay, thank you. I didn't understand what you had said. I thought maybe I didn't, no one else did either. Thank you. Motion passes. Public comment. Does anyone in the audience have anything they'd like to share with us? So we'll go to our resolution number 23R12. Kelly?
A resolution approving additional services invoiced by Data Force for the printing, mailing, and tabulation of the community survey component of the 2022 comprehensive plan and declaring an emergency.
This resolution was brought to the Community Development Committee, and we ask to waive, make a motion to waive the 3 readings.
Second.
We have a first and a second.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Fetterman,
Yes.
Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Daniels,
Yes.
Mr. Stock,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Hargit.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 23R12.
Second.
We have a first and a second.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Fetterman,
Yes.
Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Daniels,
Yes.
Mr. Stock,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Hargit.
Yes.
Motion passes. Resolution number 23R13.
A resolution authorizing additional appropriations to the 2023 annual operating appropriation budget and declaring an emergency.
This resolution is assigned to the Finance Committee. We move to waive the 3 readings on Resolution 23R13.
Second.
We have a first and a second, Kelly?
Mr. Fetterman,
Yes.
Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Daniels,
Yes.
Mr. Stock,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Hargit,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones.
Yes.
We move to adopt Resolution 23R13.
Second.
We have a first and a second.
Mr. Fetterman,
Yes.
Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Daniels,
Yes.
Mr. Stock,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Hargit,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones.
Yes. Motion passes 7-0. We have resolution number 23R14.
A resolution recognizing March 6th as Inclusion Day and the month of March as Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month and declaring this an emergency.
This resolution was assigned to Community Development. I'd like to make a motion to waive the 3 on Resolution 23R14.
As amended.
As amended, yes. Thank you.
We have a first and a second.
Second, yeah, now you can say.
Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Daniels,
Yes.
Mr. Stock,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Hargit,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Fetterman.
Yes.
Make a motion to approve Resolution 23R14 as amended.
Second.
We have a first and a second, Kelly?
Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Daniels,
Yes.
Mr. Stock,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Hargit,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Fetterman.
Yes.
Motion passes. And resolution number 23R15 is going to be on hold
Withdrawn.
with them. Our next resolution is resolution 23R16.
A resolution authorizing the City of New Franklin to enter into a one-year agreement with the Summit County Public Defenders Commission and declaring an emergency.
This was assigned to laws and ordinance, and we move to waive the three.
Second.
We have a first and a second, please.
Mr. Stock?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Hargit?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Fetterman?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
We move to adopt 23R16.
Second. We have a first and a second, please.
Mr. Stock?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Hargit?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Fetterman?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Resolution number 23R17.
A resolution strongly urging the Ohio Governor and members of the Ohio General Assembly to restore the local government fund to pre-recession levels and declaring an emergency.
This resolution was assigned to the Community Development Committee. We make a motion to waive the three on Resolution 23R17.
Second.
We have a first and a second.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Hargit?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Fetterman?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Stock?
Yes.
We move to adopt Resolution 23R17.
We have a first,
Second.
second. Vote.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Hargit?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Fetterman?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Stock?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Which brings us to our very favorite part of the meeting, Paul.
Always entertaining for someone. Okay, first of all, I sent you out there, we have an application for liquor transfer, license transfer. As you know on these, it's what we are required, if we are going to request a hearing, we have to do that no later than March 13th. And that would also require an opinion from our law director that for some reason there was reasonable grounds to oppose the transfer. This is a transfer of the license from Turkey Foot Lake Golf Links to Atkins Golf Links, Atkins Golf LLC, DBA Turkey Foot Lake Golf Links. And I sent this to police as well. We didn't receive any objections. So if there are no objections, we need a motion to waive request for hearing on this transfer.
So moved. Second.
I'm sorry, who was the first?
Dave.
And the second?
Me.
We have a first and a second.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Hargit?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Fetterman?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Motion passes 7-0.
All right.
I think you meant Mr. Stock.
Mr. Stock?
Yes.
You were
So they
close.
left me out of that one.
All right. Slow meeting.
That's good.
Yeah.
Let's see. We, Manchester Youth Baseball and Softball have asked that they be permitted to try to raise some money by posting banners around the ball fields. And it's pretty common everywhere you go, you see these. We've never done it, nobody's really asked. They think that they can raise somewhere between $2,500 and $5,000 by this. I met with their president, Charlie Pavenka, really great guy, very much committed. Initially we talked to Parks about this. We said, well, if that happens, they're going to lower the registration. And talking to Charlie, he said they aren't really going to lower it, but they hope to not have to raise it in the future. And of course, everything is going way up. He mentioned even umpire fees are going from $60 to $85. And when you multiply that towards the number of games we got going on, so they promised they would be cautious to place these where they wouldn't be an obstruction to spectators. I actually met with him and he showed me what he had in mind. And they would remove those at the end of each season. So it would be our intention to go ahead. And it's not something you need a motion on. I just wanted you to be advised if somebody has an issue with that. But I think we're going to let them go ahead and get those up. And we'll do it on an annual basis. And if there's a problem with it, you can always revisit it in the coming year. Well, I'm talking about parks. We're working on permits for the tennis courts. So we've got a draft of that, and we'll have something in place for those who might want to reserve the courts. we're going to reach out to, we've already heard from the Manchester schools for their tennis teams and also for their gym classes. We're going to reach out to the other 4 school districts and let them know, ask them if they have an interest, and they can inquire. At least the intention right now is if for school purposes and for those purposes, we wouldn't be looking to charge a fee. If some local group wants to come in and have a league there, something like that, that would be different. If they want to rent for tournaments, that would be something different. So we're putting in place the permit process for that. And then we'll also get some signage so that for the tennis courts particularly, that if there's games scheduled or whatever, people can take a look and say, Wednesday that it's reserved from X to Y to Z. We don't anticipate getting into any type of reservation process relative to the pickleball courts at this point in time. They're a well-behaved group. We'll have the paddles up there. But in the event that somebody wanted to reserve them for a tournament or something like that, that we want to make sure that we've got the protocol in place so that they can provide proper insurance and we can issue a permit for it. So we're working on that. Yes, sir?
No, it's just thinking to myself, that's a wild assumption that we don't have any problems with pickleball people. We just opened those courts, so we really don't know,
I'll tell you how popular it is. I was at the dentist yesterday, and the not so young lady, well, I won't say that. She's a lovely lady. I've known her for a long time. She does my teeth. And on Thanksgiving Day, she came out to the courts. And there were enough people that it was a nice enough day that her and her family, young and old, and they had their own net. And they were able to come in, they put their own net up, and they played pickleball on Thanksgiving Day. So, yeah.
Regarding the reservations and stuff, we'd still have 1 court left open for anybody, residents that would show up.
Do you mean like the tennis courts?
So like if somebody wants to reserve the tennis courts, could we have the permitting process where they're not reserving the entire field? They're reserving, let's just say, the majority of it. We still have 1 open for residents when they show up and play.
That certainly makes sense, with the exception of the organized OHSAA matches, which I understand that sometimes they use all the courts. So if it was a school function like that, an organized event, yes. I think for practices and so on, yeah, we ought to reserve it, make sure there's one court open. Our thinking, and we'll see how it plays out this year. We kind of think that when they're going to be busy with it, it'll be a less busy time for people doing walk-ups, and I think most of the summertime would probably be when we're getting more people walking up when the schools won't be using them. So, but we'll play it by ear, and that's a good point to make sure we at least keep one open all the time.
Yes.
Okay. We passed this on the Summit Board of Developmental Disabilities, and they are kicking off Disability Awareness Month with their partners at the Akron Zoo on Saturday, March 4th through Monday, March 6th. You can celebrate community inclusion with free admission to the zoo just by wearing orange. So you put some orange on, you go to the zoo Saturday, Sunday, Monday, you get in for free. So we'll put this on our website too. And they're really just trying to draw attention to the amazing work that they do. All right, let's see. Tudor House, we are working on on getting things in place for the seawall so that we can hopefully get that in before the season starts. That's a capital grant, and we're working on that literally every day, trying to make that happen. We are also working on concerns relative to noise, and we talked to you about that the last time, I think a meeting or 2 ago. We heard from the neighbor who owns the house that's lakefront, that's at the southeast corner, and he doesn't live there year round, but he's concerned also about about noise, etc. We are going to be, I expect we'll be coming to planning and zoning with a request for a variance. The initial thing is to put up a fence at that corner, and really, I think in large deference to that homeowner, and then plant trees in front of that. So that's the initial plan relative to noise. Whether we'll be able to maybe buffer the trees around the corner a little bit, and it could be a relatively high fence. Certainly, we're not going to do anything, suggest anything unsightly. And planning and zoning will have to determine whether or not, and neighbors will get a chance to speak on the fence itself, because it's going to take more than a 6-foot fence to do any good. I've talked with Mason's Cove. We're working on the on decibel ratings. We're going to be double and triple checking those, and have some thoughts about maybe pointing those speakers in a different direction. Maybe we head them towards the park as opposed to straight back towards the house. That might help a little bit. And so we're continuing to work on a variety of options to try not be intrusive to certain folks and sensitive to their concerns, while at the same time that we don't, diminish the benefit and the enjoyment that so many people get out there. So just want council to know we're continuing to work on that as well.
One thing to mention is the material that the fence is made of might be an important consideration. Making it out of plastic might reverberate sound more on, not a sound engineer, just.
Yeah, I think they're talking about wooden woven fence. Yeah, that's what they're looking at.
That makes sense.
Okay, and let's see, I think lastly, we are, the visitor center that the state park envisions, the ODNR envisions, we have put together a proposal to try to get some funding, state and federal, for sewer and water to that location. And I don't know if they've made a final decision, but all signs point to that it would be towards the swimming beach at the top of the hill up there. The simple math on it, if it's a $4 million project, if they have to do $2 million worth of sewer and water, we're not going to get much of a visitor center. If they got $4 million that they can allocate strictly to the center, hopefully they can do the kind of center that we'd like to see out there, with some meeting rooms and restrooms, of course, and which they've done at other parks. So we've got the support of the local ODNR in that regard. And we put together a proposal that would not only take sewer and water to that location, but in doing so, it would be a route that would make it available for St. Luke's and also for the Tudor House. And also, there's not that many residences along the route. It would really be going from the Zellray package plant, which is going to turn into a pump station. But it would bring it closer to areas, both sewer and water, that some lakefront people that do want the sewer and water, and maybe give us an opportunity to expand from there. So we're pitching that with a zero city participation. That's the idea. Can we raise all the funds? And we've had some really interesting conversations that make me optimistic in that regard. So we're knocking on those doors for that as well. And that's all I got.
Mayor, did you want to mention the meeting that you attended with Congresswoman Sykes?
Yeah, please. Well,
go ahead.
Well, and we were able to, Representative Sykes, as she pointed out, that's our new state representative. This is the first time, congressional representative, and this is the first time that all of Summit County has been in one district. It was cut up. There were 5 different districts that each had parts of Summit County. So there's a more concentrated approach, I think, and a voice. And it was, to her credit, she invited the local communities, the cities and the townships and the villages for a roundtable. And New Franklin was well represented. Mr. Daniels and Mr. Powell both able to be there. I was there as well. And I was able to get her staff a copy of the proposal and bend her ear on that a little bit already, so that's a good start. But she indicated that she's quite open to seeing what she can do about getting some of that federal money back here to Summit County. So it was a nice event.
It was a very nice event, and my hat's off to her for really opening the door to the entire community. It wasn't restricted to any one political party, so it was nice that everybody was welcome, and I thought she did a great job. You could tell she's an experienced politician. Yeah.
And it doesn't hurt. Her father is a state senator as well, so that gives us one more person to help advance our cause down there in Columbus. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do you have anything on the comprehensive plan committee yet?
No, we're in that churning part where we're having the committee or workshops. Thank you. Words are not coming to me tonight. The workshops. The next workshop is March 9th, and I think this one was commercial development.
Parks and Rec.
Is it Parks?
Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec. So March 9th, they're all gathered at 6 o'clock.
6 to 8.
One of these, well, this will probably be the last one, so I'm going to come more prepared. March 9th, and they're gathered, and they are very well attended. They're interesting. You get a lot out of them. I strongly urge anyone in the community, come. If you don't want to participate, come and watch. But there's a lot there, and it's your community, it's your town, your city. So when it's all said and done, here's your opportunity to really be a part and have your voice be heard in a pretty productive way. So.
Thank you, Jim. Susan, do you have anything financial?
Just a couple things. I'm sure some of you noticed in your folders, you got the Voice of Ethics, which is their quarterly report. I make sure everybody gets this, the department heads, the mayor, and council, of course. I would highly recommend, and I believe Mr. Cox is the only one that I know of that's taken it. You can take their course online. I have to take it every year, so. It's very interesting. She's very entertaining and educational, and it tells you everything you need to know about the ethics law and the penalties, and there are ones like nepotism that are felonies. So it would behoove everyone to be aware of that. So I know that's part of the packet you've got when you signed up for this job, but you can go online and take these. It's like an hour, 2 hour. Now I think this one's a 1 hour course, and you can take it at your leisure. So I would highly recommend that. It will serve you well. The other thing, my yearly reminder, if you haven't taken your other training that is required for the open meetings, public meetings, please do so. You can do that online as well. And all we need for our purposes here at the office is basically your paperwork that they give you that proves that you took that course. So please, this is just kind of your reminder.
So that's once per term.
Once per term, yes. So I always tell people, get it out of the way at the beginning of your term, and then you don't have to worry about it. We are going into our gap season now for our financial report for 2022. So we're giving our preparers all their information and starting to put that financial report together. So that's kind of, aside from our regular duties, that's our main thrust right now. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Susan. Do we have anything for old business?
I've got a few things here. One of the things I've talked about in the past was the residents on the Rexhead channel. They've had some issues with the channel filling in. I received an email from Mr. Wagner. They are having a meeting tomorrow evening, 7 p.m. at the Kiwanis building over there on Portage Drive. ODNR is going to be in to talk about some future plans with that and going through and doing measurements and potential dredging and stuff like that.
Is that a plaque meeting?
No, it's not. I don't know, is that a plaque meeting? No, I think this is just particular to
that issue.
Yes, that issue. Had a resident reach out in regards to Mayor's comment on Seward Farms over on Center Road. They had interpreted that as we, the city, bought that.
Yeah, I saw that.
So yeah, I mentioned, I told the resident that no, we hadn't. A private group bought that, and they're using it. So I just wanted, just in case anyone else is wondering, we did not buy that.
Yeah, and then they may have misunderstood. That's not strictly what the article said, but you could, if you read it quickly, you might have thought.
Okay. Yeah, I can't remember what.
No, we have no interest in it.
No, that's fine.
That's
knowing about it, you would not have said that, but somebody just picking up reading it, they just made that assumption.
Okay.
Yeah, just, in case somebody else is wondering, just want to make sure we said that. Last meeting, we had some comment or some questions about water quality and stuff like that. I looked into, talked to the EPA, had a meeting with them, and I inquired about surface water, because the groundwater, we got protocols, we know what we need to do with that. We talked about VOCs, which is a volatile organic contaminant test that you typically do on drinking water. It looks for 20 to 30 different constituents that they're trying to find. He said that if we start doing that on the lakes, the problem is we don't have a baseline to fall back to. And with the lakes out here having a lot of boat traffic on it, that's going to give you a, I would say a false reading, but you're introducing things to the water that you're testing for. So you wouldn't get a good baseline to figure out. So that's some further conversation we can have, but that wasn't really an immediate indicator that we could do to see if there's any kind of contamination. I think that's all that I have on old business.
Anyone else have anything on old business? Jim? Anything?
I'm sorry, I'm busy doing something else.
Sorry. We're sorry we interrupted you.
No, I don't have anything, thank you.
Anybody have anything for new business?
I've got something for new business. I'd like to get, have council start thinking about some ideas on this topic. So in my job, one of the things we did, we started our own fiber broadband offering to the community. We've got our own data centers, ISP, all that other stuff. So where this comes in is we are working with a company that has actually been working with the County of Medina to run their fiber. This company has a model where they will come in, they will use your assets, and then they build on that, and then they run it out to all the neighborhoods. They basically operate it, and then they provide the city with a fee per resident that they pick up as an account per month. I know we don't have anything like that out here now, but this company also has resources to do all the grant writing. And one of the things they said there's a lot of federal money out there for is connecting your safety services. Since we have a COG, which is in green, and we've got some resources here, we've got some resources in the other parts of the county that we can start linking together for safety purposes. They would be willing to come in and talk with us and get their grant writing team involved. And then what you do is you end up, you write the grants for these connections between these different locations. You overbuild your infrastructure. So if they're going to need a pair of a strand of fiber to run between the two, you'd install, say, a 144, a 288 strand of fiber. You've got all this extra infrastructure, and now you can start using it for other things. You can bring in backhaul from one of the other data centers you're going to tie to. And then once you have that pipeline getting here to the community, a company like this Lit can come in and they can actually start building off of that into our neighborhoods. It won't cost us anything. We're just allowing them the opportunity to use our backbone to provide to the residents. And once again, there's a revenue stream we can provide to the city. Since there is federal money that's actually backing this, if you're using those assets to generate a profit, you just have to show where you're putting that revenue back into assets for the city, whether it be streets, infrastructure, utilities, stuff like that. So if you guys are interested in that, I can set that up. If you guys want to start thinking about ways that we can make these connections, we could actually have that conversation with these folks, have their grant writers looking if they can find something that's purest money. I mean, I think it's a win-win. But
Is that Lit?
yes.
Yeah, we just, we're part of the Ohio Broadband Initiative.
Right, through the county.
And well, so this is a separate organization.
Okay.
It's a statewide organization. And we opted in to be part of that. And as a matter of fact, I was on the call, and Lit did their presentation to the whole group. So it's certainly something that's worth further discussion. The question arises of who pays for that infrastructure. Who's going to pay for the installation? Now that,
well, that's where they use the federal grants to pay for.
Right. And there's no question there's potential for state money. So sure.
And if that's something you guys are interested in, if you guys want to start thinking about some potential ways we can make this work, I'd be happy to set that up. And so it's up to you guys.
I think it sounds good, Kevin. What does anybody else think?
And maybe as a first step, I'm pretty sure they made that presentation.
I was in a meeting with them all day today, so I didn't see the presentation.
Well, this was, I think, like last Monday. But I think they made that available for download. So I'll see. Yeah. So let me see if I got that, and I'll send that out as an initial thing to everybody on the council. You can take a look.
I know, I've worked, or known about them, and this is what they do. This is their thing, and to go in communities like this, and so it's a legitimate company. They're a nation. They're all over the U.S.
Yeah.
They're all things. They invest into the community with the concept that they're going to provide a service, and obviously the service is going to be at a great rate where the residents are going to tie into it. So it's they build the infrastructure, they use it, and we win by having a better broadband service out here.
We certainly need that in the areas.
Well, that's how it started in Fairlawn.
My
They didn't know that they were going to get much of a response. I think they got about 65% of the cities.
Wow.
Yeah.
They have a large customer base.
That's all I have.
I have something for new business if Kevin's all done.
Hi, Naomi Hodgman.
Yeah. 2023 Tudor House events. Has that started,
Oh, yeah.
you talked about?
No, we got the calendar.
Yeah, good.
Yes. And we'll publish it soon, but we've got all the dates. We're finalizing some of the music. We got three movies, 4 music. We'll kick off on, the Easter egg hunt, which will be on the grounds. That was a question because we had to do the state park, but it'll be on the Tudor House grounds. Kevin announced that, Mr. Powell announced that a couple of weeks ago, but that'll be the Saturday before Christmas. Easter. Yeah, we always do it Christmas.
It's easier to find them in the snow.
Well, that sun was bright today, wasn't it?
Let's get a jump on.
Easter is the Saturday before Christmas.
Yeah.
Just this year though, it will be next year, just this year.
All right. Well,
Just a little surprise.
and so yeah, we'll be out. We'll have our the Sunday of Memorial Day weekend, sail in the summer. That's reserved. We'll follow with. Then we'll start the Tuesday night movies and music every other week, and we will have our 4th of July, our old-fashioned 4th of July again. We'll have our summer barbecue. We'll have an Oktoberfest. I think, and we may be adding a few more surprises along the way too. So we're sending out a request for sponsors to the local businesses and some of the vendors that we use. Seeing if they might be willing to sponsor some of these events. I mean, we operated in the black this previous year, so we raised enough funds from those to cover all the costs. They didn't range from about $25,000, and that's just we just never did that before. Now we're doing it. So now we're going to see if we can get some sponsors. We get some sponsors, we can do even more.
And maybe if we put a big enough fence, they can put banners on it.
Then we put some banners on there.
I love it.
All right,
You may want to see you may want to take a look at the flyer for the, we'll post it. It'll be on the website, the flyer that we're sending out to try to get sponsors, because we have a family who happened to be out there for one of our events and did a beautiful family pyramid. And we have them prominently featured in our ad. So you might recognize someone when you find that, but I want it to be a surprise. It's not me.
I have something real quick under new business.
The clock is ticking.
Yeah, I know, we've gone on today. I go to a lot of different conferences, and one meeting I wasn't here a few weeks ago. I was in Austin, Texas during the ice storm, and a lot of people didn't show up to this meeting because they couldn't get there for the ice storm. And in a very impromptu way, the hotel set up a really nice camera system that I guess a lot of cities use, where the camera knows who's speaking and it goes to that person.
Yeah, they call it an owl, I think.
Yeah, I think that technology has become significantly more common, therefore theoretically less expensive, easier to put in, and I think it might be something to look at. You know, when a lot of people watch us, and now we got the audio so you can hear, which is a huge help. But the video is kind of far away, and you know, it may not be an expensive upgrade if we could look into it. That's all I'm asking.
Will do.
Especially if it's something that's easy to use, so that whatever meeting's going on, whether
Correct.
it's a BZA meeting, whether it's a workshop, whatever, you know, flip a switch.
That is exactly right. My impression of this system was that it was pretty simple, and they actually had two-way communication, so the people who couldn't attend the meeting were able to be on a Teams or Zoom call. Yeah, it was fantastic. Now they couldn't talk; they had to just raise their hand and type comments. But this was 130 people in this meeting, and only 20 of us were able to make our flights in. So I was a chair of the meeting, and it went very smooth. It was really neat, and that camera infrastructure seemed to be the backbone of the whole thing. So.
That sounds good. Anybody else? Any public questions or concerns? No?
We must be
Do we have-
really good.
Either or really good. They want to go home. Paul, is there a need for an executive session?
We do not.
And I would like to make a motion that we
Second.
adjourn. Thank you.
Second.
First and second, Kelly.
Mr. Cox?
No.
Mr. Hargit? Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Fetterman?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Thank you. Motion passes. Our next council meeting will be March 15th at 6 p.m. here at Council.